Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to a Celtic World. My name is Anthony. I'm joined by Paul, and this is the Tactical Review, a new show under the umbrella of a Celtic World. You may have seen me and Paul previously. We are back. The dynamic duo. Paul's back his holidays. We're talking Glasgow derbies, a derby of dross, as Chris Sutton put it, and I have to say that was quite apt. Paul, let's just take a minute, catch up. Haven't actually seen you since you've been back.
Yep.
How you been? I know you sort of gave a little preamble to your holiday in the Thursday show last week, but how's it been? How have you been?
Yeah, no, it was great. Nice to be back on this after a little sabbatical. Anyone that's watched the show previously, you'll be getting pretty much a similar feel, although we're probably going to evolve it a little bit over the next few weeks and throughout the season. But certainly tonight, you'll be very much what you've been used to elsewhere. Back after a month and a bit overseas, Europe, Italy, Greece, Scotland, England, pit stop in Dubai on the way back. So great break. Not hugely relaxing, I'll be honest. And the fixture list and the Blazers at the Scottish Football Head Office decided to ruin my opportunity to get a chance to go back to Celtic Park and see a game. So I'd carved out the League Cup weekend to be in Glasgow from 11 a.m. on Saturday right through to Monday, thinking that would cover me for lunchtime kickoffs on Saturday all the way through. And the powers that be decided to stick the game on a Friday night. So didn't get to a match in the end. The first game of dross in the European tie was the night before I flew out of London, so I was down there, so I couldn't get to see that either. I watched that in the Cock Tavern in Euston for my sins. But yeah, no, great trip. Caught up with people that I haven't seen in the best part of a decade plus in some cases. So yeah, great to do that. We were mainly there for my mum's 70th birthday, which we got all the family together in Greece, which was great. And yeah, happy to be back. Back to have a rest, to be honest. So yeah, back. Flew in just over a week ago in the early hours of Monday last week, which is why we didn't launch this last week, because I was probably functioning on fumes by that point. But yeah, good trip, and really great to be back. And good to have the football back, albeit we're not quite firing on all cylinders yet, and obviously still no news about any more incomings today yet. I guess those in the comments might get to this before us, given that we'll be trying to focus on the show and the match. But it's pretty pitiful yesterday, let's be honest.
Okay. Yes, and likewise, I've my wife flew out to Scotland today, believe it or not. Not actually Scottish, but my sister-in-law lives in Aberdeen, so she's off to visit her. So it's me and the two cats for the next couple of weeks. Look out. Anyway, it's 420 somewhere saying, hail, hail, Paul and Anthony. Hail, hail to you, sir. Good to see a familiar name in the comment section. Get involved, guys. There's 10 of you live at the moment, but that will grow and that will get bigger as the weeks go on. So yeah, feel free to shout out as we go along, because I'm sure every man and his dog and his cat has an opinion on last night's match. Paul, I guess we need to get into it because that is the thrust of the show. So normally when we do this, we start off with team lines and we talk about how we're feeling going into the game. I know, Paul, you were saying that their Rangers are due a studding. Unfortunately, we're going to have to put that on the back burner because they're still due a studding, but unfortunately last night wasn't the night for that. I was a little bit more circumspect, I thought, on the back of two very, let's face it, average performances in Europe, flying back from Kazakhstan, having lost in penalty shootout, and then having to back it up a couple of days later. I kind of felt that, yes, we both agreed that the squad needed freshening up, but I guess this is where the recruitment comes home to roost, because, one thing, Brendan, he's not exactly got flush with options, really, is he? There's always so much he can do with the squad that he currently has. Adam Ida's 1 foot out the door, so we kind of suspected that he wasn't going to participate, and that was the case. So the two changes were I want to call him Wee Ange because I'm trying to butcher his name all night long, but Mikel Ange Balakowisha. So I'm going to call him Wee Ange, if you know what I'm talking about. He came in, and Arnie Engels came in for a start as well. And I kind of felt that on the back of the performance against Livingston the weekend, I thought, at least him or Bernardo had to start. You had 2 players on the bench. I was advocating for it during the week, and I think you were on the Thursday show as well, Paul. So on paper, that was kind of the squad, that the team that I kind of thought that Brendan would pick. I know, Paul, you were lobbying for Colby Donovan to get a start at right back. In hindsight, that's a very good call, because I thought Anthony Ralston didn't cover himself in too much glory. And I thought there were a few players that looked very, very leggy. Unfortunately, both our fullbacks and our captain, but we will get into the nitty gritty in a second. But Paul, not really any real selection surprises there, because like I said, he really only had so many, strings to pull. He didn't have many options, did he?
Well, no, he does have a few options in midfield. He obviously chose not to go with Bernardo, and on the strength of the performance, you could make a case after the fact, and it's always smart it's always easy being smart after the fact. But you could have made a case for Bernardo starting ahead of the skipper. To be honest, he was that poor. I was pleased to see Engels start. Obviously, it's not a secret I'm a fan of his. Again, there was some strange decisions in terms of him being the one that got the hook when I thought both his colleagues in the middle were worse than him on the day. But, and he was just starting to think, come on a game and impose himself a little bit more in dangerous areas when he got the hook. So I was pleased to see him in. As I say, I'd have had Colby Donovan in. He looked one of the only bright spot in the disaster in Kazakhstan. And Ralston looked absolutely dead on his feet in that match. And I just think it made sense. It would have made sense to start the kid. He's, what is he, 2019, 20? He's a big lad. He's a physical specimen. This is about as easy an opportunity to go to Ibrox and blood a youngster as you're ever going to get. And we didn't take it. So I was frustrated with that. The rest of the team sort of picked itself. Obviously with no Ida, you have to kind of go with Maeda through the middle. And with no right winger, it sort of made sense that Nygren played out there, albeit he really squeezed the space by not hugging the touchline. I think he got a bit of a rocket halfway through the first half to sort of get wider onto that touchline, because we were losing a big massive chunk of grass because he wouldn't get to the wouldn't get to the touchline and extend the pitch and pull them around a bit. So yeah, you're right. I think it was pretty much as you would expect. If we touch on briefly while we're talking about the team, a bit of a head scratcher about Simpson Puzzi. I'm not sure what's going on there. Now, clearly, if there's no option to buy, which clearly there isn't, we've presumably given City some assurances, and the player some assurances, that he'll be getting utilised and he'll get a serious amount of game time. Now, if that's the case, then presumably he's earmarked to be the partner for CCV for the year and out. He's been in and out of squads. He's not seen a minute of play yet. I've heard mixed things. Didn't want to train and play with the B side was one thing that was mentioned. I've heard other reports saying that they're going to give him post the international break, and then is expected that he'll come into the team after that. So yeah, that's just a couple of odd things going on. And yeah, 2 signings 2 weeks too late, and not enough of them as well. And so hopefully we get some bodies in the door today, but I'll be honest, I'm not hugely hopeful. Rumors of 4 in the day. Who knows? Absolutely no idea. But the board have dilly-dallied all summer. So if they produce 4 on the last day, you just think, well, what are they doing? Why could have done that a month ago, and we'd still be in the Champions League. In terms of how I was feeling right before kickoff, or in the hour before kickoff, yeah, my optimism had dipped somewhat from the earlier part of the week. The only thing that was giving me optimism is they are absolutely dreadful, which obviously turned out to be the case again. But unfortunately, we were similarly bad, which led to possibly the worst derby I've ever seen in my 47 years. So yeah, it can only go one direction from here, hopefully.
Yeah, a few comments. Let's bring some of the McLaughlin P here saying it reminded me of that Simpsons episode where they go to the football and they just pass side to side and nothing actually happens. That was, I'd say that was pretty fair. Smell the Gloves summed up our show. He says absolute pish, end of. Well, funny you should say that, Smell the Glove, because the run sheet for tonight's episode was the game was shite, discuss. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to endeavour to do that over the next 50 minutes, so hour-long show. So sit in with us because you're going to get some insight. So I guess the first real major, if we're going to do it incident by incident, I made a few notes because I was sitting at home last night. I wasn't at the Celtic club, so I was being a good boy. My wife was flying out today. First real sort of thing of note was obviously Miovski had signed for Rangers, and I think he'll get him some goals, especially in Scotland. He makes those runs in behind, and it wasn't too long before he got the wrong side of Liam Stells on the 6th or 7th minute of the game. Bit of a penalty shout, goes down far too easily. Not a penalty for me. Don Robertson does get this one right. Probably one of the only decisions I think he got right the whole day. We'll get more onto Don in a little bit, but I think the commentators were very quick. Chris Sutton and Neil McCann, and they both agreed no penalty. But it was just the danger that he posed when he does sort of make that run. And I think obviously Liam Steele was probably adjusted a little bit after that, but it was just a little bit, it was just probably the first real major talking point of the game. Paul, definitely not a penalty for you. I'm assuming there was definitely no issues with that.
No. Although on first viewing, I was concerned because he'd clearly got the wrong side. He's done what every good striker should do, in like once he's got wrong side, he's cut back across scales. Where even any minimal contact is pretty likely to get a penalty. We had beIN Sports in the club, and I'm not sure who the commentary team there was. I think it might have been Marvin Bartley. I'm not sure.
I think it is Marvin Bartley comes in for those games.
Yeah,
and he's very opinion. He comes across like he's Paolo Maldini, like when the way he comments as if like he just like the God's gift to football. Like I think Chris Sutton does it sometimes, but like Marvin Bartley, a whole nother level. Like just anyway, sorry, I digress, but I can't.
No, so he went on and on and on and on about the penalty shout for most of the game. They kept revisiting it. He seemed to think there was a pretty good shout for a penalty. I think on first view at full pace, I was concerned, I'll be honest. But as soon as you see the replay, there's borderline zero contact. I think Scales brushes him with his arm on his hand, and then as soon as he feels that very faint contact, he collapses in a heap. A good decision. Which there were, as you say, were few and far between on the day. But never a penalty. The penalty rules around handball are pretty confusing, but in terms of fouls, I think that's about as straightforward as it gets. It's
so as much as I generally felt that Celtic were a wee bit under the cosh the first 20 minutes of the game. There was a stat that came up at 18 minutes on the telly saying that Celtic has 77% possession at that point. So you're saying to me, in my head, I'm going, like range a few corners, put us under a little bit of pressure. We couldn't really sort of get out into their final third, but we had all the ball. But this was the crux of the issue for pretty much the entire match. It was comfortable possession. Statistics like Peter Schmeichel, that'd be impressive. Schmeichel having more touches and more passes than Callum McGregor. Callum McGregor, basically, I think he thought he was playing rugby at Ibrox last night because not one of his passes went forward. He would get a free kick and pass it backwards. And this is just how it went on. We joked about the horseshoe of death, and we say, oh god, when Celtic start playing like that, we're never really anywhere. But it was just in like absolute overdrive last night. It was like everyone was afraid to play the ball forward. And I'll touch on, we just may as well go open slather here because as far as the game went, there wasn't really that many like real big incidents to talk about anyway. We'll just bring them up as they come along. But Arnie Engels tried to play the ball forward. Was he successful at doing it all the time? Absolutely not. It broke down on several occasions. He got caught in the ball a couple of occasions. But what did he try and do? He tried to turn and get forward and get the play up the park. And he got stuck in, he gave away a couple of fouls. But that's what Atati's in the team for. Atati's in the team to do that sort of attacking, playing that dangerous pass that no one else can see, or, just taking a risk. But he just played so within himself last night, and so did McGregor. McGregor's the one that's copping it, but Rio Hatate was just as bad. And it was just so safe. And it's just, if he's going to be in the team and that's all he's going to do, there's better players in the team, aka Bernardo, that can do that job if that's all he's going to do. And we're just not going to get anywhere, because if we're not going to get the ball out quickly to our wide players in inverted commas, then to compound that whole issue, you've got Daiz Maeda dropping deeper and deeper and deeper and just closing the space in. And we just looked an absolute shambles. And you've got to ask yourself, what are we working now on at training? Because, all right, it was a quick turnaround for the European game, but still, surely you sort of got one eye on the fixture at the weekend to sort of say, look, this is how we're going to line up. This is our pattern of play. But I just couldn't see anything last night. And Brendanrodgers come after the game and went, oh, that's not how we play and that's not how we set up. But it kind of felt like that's how we'd set up and that's how they were told to play. Like, it was just constantly passing it backwards. Even our new winger, and I'm not going to jump on his back because it's literally his first game. He's been thrown in the deep end. But his tendency was to play it back. I don't think he took Tavernier on once. And then the one time he does get away from Tavernier and gives him a little nudge right on half-time, which would have been a chance one-on-one on your goal or the goalkeeper, Don Robertson just gives a wee soft foul for James Tavernier and lets him off the hook. I've gone all over the place there, Paul, but feel free to jump in any way you like. But the elephant in the room, you're not going to win a game of football passing it backwards and passing it sideways. And the midfield are guilty because, all right, they were man-marked. But the thing for me with McGregor is, right, that Osgaard was following him around everywhere. But he needed to take a foul. He needed to take the ball in, try and turn him, try and roll him, at least draw a foul, get him booked, do something. But McGregor took the safe option every single time. Every time. Didn't take a challenge once, just passed it back. And I'm sorry, but you need your captain in this fixture to roll his sleeves up and get dug in. And that's not getting dug in for me. Passing it back and playing it safe is not. There's a risk that you can lose it, absolutely. But
he nearly did. Also, he got caught very late on, and I don't know. He was dreaming. I don't know what he was up to, but it was pretty much summed up his performance. He was really poor. And look, it's not often that's the case. Certainly not in the derby. He's usually one of the key players in driving us on. But he was very poor. I did see that earlier. And there comes a point where you got to be open to rotating him. At the very least, getting him off the pitch at 60 minutes and getting somebody else on. For the best part of a decade, he played 60 games a season. Now that's got to catch up with you eventually. And I just think we could do him a favor by rotating him in and out of the squad. Because he's looking far from on it at the minute. Tactically we were dreadful. Like, we just looked like a team that were happy to take a draw. And when you go to Ibrox with them on the ropes, with the opportunity to go in 9 points clear, you got to have a go. I don't care if you wait till halftime and then you have a go second half. There was a brief flurry for about 5, 6, 7 minutes around about the hour mark, either side of the hour mark, where we had some, at least, pressure in their final third. There was a weak shot from Hatate when he should have probably looked to square it. Or even it came from a quick free kick. We should have probably just not taken the quick free kick and got bodies up, get somebody like Scales in the box who can be a threat. Because it's unlikely it was going to come from anywhere else, how poor and creative we were. Hatate had a shot from outside the box. McGregor had a shot that was deflected from outside the box, and Kieran Tierney had a half-hearted overhead kick. I think Nygren had one pulled kind of looping in over the bar about 75 minutes. So maybe in that sort of 10, 15 minute spell, we turned it up a bit, but we never really went for the jugular. I just felt like if that's a team on the ropes, right? They've conceded 17 goals in 11 games. They've only had prior to this, they only had 2 clean sheets against Victoria Pleasant and Panathinaikos in the home ties in the qualifying for Europe. Alloa could put 2 past them at Ibrox. Dundee have scored. St Mirren have scored. They've really, really struggled to keep clean sheets. And we didn't lay a glove on them. I just think it's really, really poor to not ask a wee bit more of a question of them. I just think we just take a little bit more risk, and there was a bunch of reward waiting for us if we did it. And that's got to come from the manager. It's got to come from the manager. The team just look like you're spot on. Balagwisha is a case in point. He's only just in a team and he's already turned. He's a guy who used to run in behind in his old club, pace, a threat, direct running. He would run up the pitch and then go and then shovel it back to Kieran Tierney or Callum McGregor. So it's clearly catching. I don't know. I just really disappointed in terms of how we set ourselves up and the unwillingness to have a proper go. And that's clearly come from the man. He can come out and say it's not how we play, but it's how we've played for the last 3 games in a row. Toothless, lacking in any intensity, and 3 clean sheets in a row out of Europe, out of the Champions League, and a gilt-edged chance to go 9 points clear of, in theory, your biggest rivals, and you don't take it. Really poor. I think I've just seen a comment there about Engels played a really dangerous ball quite early on. Do you remember this one? It was quite, was like a deep loop in from deep, and he looped it in and went sort of in between the corridor, the last defender, and the goalkeeper. I'm pretty unlucky that Maeda didn't get on the end of it. But, he's got that in his locker. But I just think he's another one that sort of is getting dragged down by the general malaise around him. And obviously him being chopped in and out of the team probably isn't helping. We both said it in different shows last week that, players like Bernardo, players like Engels, young players with a high ceiling, they're not gonna improve if they're not playing football. They've got to be in the team. They've got to be getting minutes. And so far, we're not seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brendan-Rodgers definitely. The 3 stick-ons at the team at the moment are Schmeichel and goals, Cal Mack and Rio Itati. If they're fit, they are. Well, even if they're not fit, they're starting. They're starting.
I think you can add Benjamin Negrin to that as well, and he's another one who, he's got himself some goals, but I've seen very little that impresses me in his all round play. He's one-paced. He doesn't really go by people. His set pieces are even worse than Engels's, and Engels's have gone downhill. He's got a bit of an eye for goal, but is that enough to keep yourself in the team? I guess it is, because there's no other options.
It's a go threat. But this is the thing, right? So managers live and die by these sorts of decisions. But at the moment, I kind of feel like his stick-ons are the ones that are potentially letting him down to a degree. But I mean, in 300 minutes of football, we've had 3 shots on target in open play, between the 2 Kyrat games and the derby at the weekend. Where's all the creativity gone? Where it's just it's staggering. But it's just and the other thing to add into this is that we had 2 fullbacks who were basically rooted to the spot. Neither one of them really overlapped or got forward to any extent. And if you've got Negrin tucking in, because his tendency was to obviously play narrow, because he did it against Livingston, and it was always a risk of playing him out wide, was that you're not going to get that same width that you would normally get with a James Forrest. But surely that then creates the byline for Ralston to then get past him. But he just looked like he was struggling. He's carrying a wagon behind him. And same with with Kieran Tierney. He looked like he was really struggling as well. He caught one about 20 minutes into the game, and after that, I don't really think he had much real involvement, And then defensively in the second half, the wee winger did him for pace, and he tried to body check him. We Rangers lad just bounced off him and just kept going, and we're lucky to get away with it. Stales managed to get a half clearance, and Schmeichel sort of gathered it, but we're missing AJ. I mean, you sort of say that was a real blow, him doing his hammy, but we're really going to have to find some way of getting something out of our fullbacks, because and in fairness, the wee laddie that came on in the second half, he looked like he had a little something about him. But this is something. This is rich coming from my dad, because my dad used to like give Greg Taylor pelters, but he's saying Mr. Taylor from the overload the midfield, and he's right. We seem to be, our balance seems to be off, and if you man mark McGregor and attack, he's having one of his off games, and at the moment, let's face it, he's having more off games than he's having on games. How do you get out? What do? You're basically just playing the ball backwards and forwards between your goalkeeper and your defenders. You're inviting pressure on yourself, because that was where Rangers got joy. They got the odd long throw in, a couple of soft free kicks around the box, and that was their threat. That was the only threat that they carried in the whole game. They didn't even get a shot on target, or they maybe got one shot on target for the whole game, if it was even classified as a shot. So it's frustrating, because at the back for them, that Jajega, he just looks so shaky. There was one time where Butland passed the ball out to him in the first half, and he basically stood on it, and my head was so close to pinching it off him. And that was like the one time we put them under even a little bit of pressure, and they nearly chucked it. It's just like, if we had put them under a bit more pressure, they would have folded so quickly, but they got away with it. And they grew in confidence as the game went on, because we just let them get away with it and let them get away with murder. Incredibly frustrating. I guess the other real main talking point from the first half, Paul, was the offside goal. So again, pretty much a bit of a needless free kick. Probably actually one of those free kicks that probably wasn't actually a free kick. It was one of those ones where Don Robertson just handing out the petty fouls. 17 apiece, by the way, if you were playing at home. 3 yellow cards to Rangers, none to us, which apparently had the Rangers fans up in arms today. I don't know how did they get away with it. I'd probably argue that half those fouls probably weren't actually fouls, but Suter goes early. Good header. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, obviously he gets ahead of our 2 defenders because he is a yard offside. But what do you think, Paul? I kind of felt that Schmeichel was in no man's land in that situation. If you're coming, you got to come and collect, or you stay in your line. I mean, where he was isn't going to save anything. Like, you're basically relying on the attacking player missing the goal, but. I kind of felt that he was a bit culpable there. And, all right, Carter Vickers gets out jump, Stales is behind him, that sort of gets in between them. But the fact he's a yard offside, probably a little bit of benefit of the doubt there. But yeah, I think I'm calling sort of Schmeichel out on that one. And he's remonstrating with the referee after. I'm going like, what are you remonstrating for? Because it's just a solid header. Like, you've got to give credit where it's due, but I don't know. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I don't think it was a free kick. The first thing I said when the ball went in the net before we knew it was offside, I was like, this should never have been a free kick in the first place. Robertson gave away a ton of these soft free kicks. Basically, anytime a Rangers player was brushed, he fell over, he gave a foul. There were 2 or 3 on Ernie Angles, which were pretty much identical. Arguably, I would say more contact, and he just waved them away and told them to get up. So, really inconsistent refereeing on the fouls. It was a decent header, but obviously he gets the advantage because he's miles offside. It's not a difficult one to pick. And I'm sure Andrew Dallas had a good long look at it to see if there was any way he could find to rule it in, but he didn't have much choice. Schmeichel, I've not been convinced with Schmeichel since he came back from his injury, to be honest. He obviously made a clanger in the cup final, which cost us the equaliser and ultimately took us to penalties. They did their research and their training on penalties, and every penalty went to his right, which is the injured side. He didn't die for any of them until the last one and didn't get near it. He got near nothing on the penalty shootout the other night. He found himself in no man's land, nearly crashing into, I think, Callum McGregor on a long ball. In the last sort of around about the 60 odd minute mark. I think it came from that Tierney overhead kick, and then they hoofed it long, which is pretty much all they did all day. And McGregor was back pedaling, and he was miles out of his box. So yeah, I've just not been convinced.
There
Like
was also one near the end with Ralston coming back, and Ralston cleared it, and Schmeichel was there, but it's like no communication, and it's like, should Schmeichel have been there? Again, it was just like, far out, guys. Like, that another day that could have been a calamity waiting to happen.
Yeah, I just think we're off the pace by a mile in pretty much every position, and yeah, the manager seems reluctant to change it, even in the areas where, admittedly, in some areas he doesn't have much in the way of backup. But Anthony Ralston's the case in point, right? I didn't think I say he got absolute pelters. I didn't think he was as bad as some people are saying, but on the basis that he was, as knackered and out of it as he was on Wednesday night or Tuesday night, whenever it was, then it just made total sense to get Colby Donovan in the team. He attacks well. He does bomb on. He does overlap. He's got good delivery. He's calm. He can link the play. I think we've got to try and get him in the team. We know what Anthony Ralston delivers, right? He's a solid backup. That's all he is. We don't know what Donovan could deliver for us. And he was nearly out the door on loan, but obviously the injury to AJ has meant that he's still here. And it potentially could be the making of him, right? Like, he's got an opportunity to compete for that jersey, and I think he should be given an opportunity in the coming games, because if we don't play these kids, we're not going to know what they've got to offer. So yeah, I just think I just think that the soft free kick, offside, and yeah, a little bit all at sea, to be honest. But if you actually strip back, I think because they scored an offside goal and had a soft penalty shout turned away, it sort of gives a false narrative in terms of who was the dominant side. There wasn't really a dominant side. They humped balls into the box with very little actual out. There's no end product. Don't think they had a shot on target all game. So we had, I think, 2 or 3, and they had none. So when you actually sort of look back at it in the cold light of day, they offered very little. The main difference is that they completely threw out the tactics that Russell Martin's gone with all season. So clearly he said he was always going to play that way. He was going to, they were going to ask, but there's huge gaps in his team when he plays that way. They haven't been able to get to grips with it. And I thought that was where we had the opportunity. If he'd played the tactics he's been playing all season, I think even at this misfiring team that we've got at the minute would have found a way to score a goal or two, because there've been big, huge areas of gaps to swan into. He obviously threw out his usual playbook and basically put 2 destroyers in midfield, clogged up the area there, and then just humped everything long and hoped for something off the scraps and set pieces, which Don Robertson obliged and gave them as many sort of free kicks as he possibly could, and they couldn't carve out a single chance from that. So, yeah, I think they were dreadful, but they changed the game plan, and I guess it worked for them in so much as they stopped us playing. But we need to be a lot more, intensity and willingness to take a risk. We took 0 risks all day, and yeah, it was pretty dreadful to watch.
Don Robertson, I think, it was definitely not one of his. I remember last time he actually had a good refereeing performance, but yeah, it wasn't a particularly great performance from him. I just felt that he blew for. He sort of let it go, and then he just pulled it back for a foul anyway. It's like, just blow it then. Like, there was just instances where, like, I don't know what he was trying to do, but the one in the first half for me was the one where Maeda has his shot pulled, gets elbowed in the face, blood coming out his lip, and it was a free kick to Rangers. I was like, how on earth is that a free kick to Rangers? And this is where the likes of the laddie from Aberdeen, Conor Barron, Diamonde, Asgard or whatever, who was marking McGregor, they're just journeymen. They're just they tried, and that was Conor Barron's first game of the season. Like, they just first start for the season, sorry, but they just like run around and they put themselves about, and a lot of effort, a lot of endeavor, but they offered nothing. And this is the thing, like, Russell Martin's adjusted his tactics to play us, but we haven't, like, at no point did we adjust our play at all. We just kept doing the same thing for 92 minutes. And that's another thing, how there wasn't more than 3 minutes added time at the end of the game. 2 minutes in the first half, 3 minutes in the second half, like, far out. Like, there was no stoppages for, like, at least 5 each half. But yeah, it's just a real, a missed opportunity, Paul, because, you know 9 points clear. You're all ready for calling the league, because that's basically it done. But, it's 6 points. It's, it's still open. And they're going to spend some money today. Yeah, they're not finished. Cyril Dessers is gone, but they're going to sign a striker. And they're probably going to sign, I think, the link to release that guy from Everton as well. So they're going to bring in a couple of players in. So all of a sudden, they've done a fair bit of business. They've spent probably, by the time they've done, about 30 million quid this transfer window. And I'm not saying we need to spend that much, but we need to spend more than what we've currently spent. And, I'm ready to go over it. But, striker, a couple of right wingers at the moment, because it's James Forrest and that's it, especially if Yang goes. There's every likelihood he's out the door to Birmingham today. And another thing was Kenny wasn't even on the bench. So you're thinking that he's probably going to go out on loan. So that leaves you with Yamada, who I'm going to say I thought he did all right when he came on, because he got stuck in, he took some tackles, he rolled the big defender a couple of times, and he was unlucky with the one Forrest put him through for. The ball was it just wasn't quite there, but it was the right idea. And that was a little bit more of Celtic of old. But it's a little bit disturbing that you're relying on James Forrest coming on at 70 minutes to give you a little bit of, the fast-paced flowing football that we're used to. But hey, that's apparently what it took. And it was 60 minutes before we had a shot on target, and that was Hatate's weak effort. And this is the other thing, Paul, and this is more of a criticism of our performances in the league up until the Rangers game, because obviously we only managed 2 shots on target for the whole game. But I just feel at the moment we have this tendency to try and walk the ball at the back of the net. We're not willing to take a chance and drill it from the edge of the box, knowing full well it could ricochet, it could take a deflection. You're just causing chaos. But we just were so pedantic and so predictable. It's just side to side, work the ball. And it's like that only works if you're doing it at pace. And the problem was last night, we couldn't even manage that. We couldn't even get the passes across because we were perceived to be under pressure. And then the out ball was just to pass it back and start again. And it just went around in circles and circles and circles. It was just a hell of a watch. But
yeah,
at the end draw.
I think I called the league after 6 or 7 games last year, and I got some stick for it. And obviously it was slightly tongue in cheek, but it was pretty clear we were going to be well ahead. And if we'd won last night, I'd have happily called it whatever that is, 4 games, because they wouldn't be catching us on night. But I don't think they'll catch us on 6 points with how poor they are. But you're right, they're going to add players. They're getting business done. They seem to get business done a lot quicker than we do. Some of the guys in the chat saying that the Dolberg deal is off. He's off to Ajax. It's completely predictable. Awesome. completely predictable. And just kind of sums up our entire window. I don't know what's going on. It's really poor. There's also a good comment there from Henrik Malarsson that says the football we played last season was shit after the league was won. Imagine if we win it in August. So every cloud and all that, which is maybe a fair point. But yeah, joking aside, if we don't get players in the next few hours, this is what we go with until January. It's a bit of a worry, to be honest. And to be honest, at this point, whoever's coming in, that it's a bit of a kind of Hail Mary. No real plan on it. It's a 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th choice, and we're just grabbing at things because we need bodies in and it's late in the day, which is just an utter shambles. I still, I'm going a bit off topic here, but we've got the time because the game was so absolutely pitiful in terms of incidents to talk about. But I like to think I've got a reasonable level of intelligence, and I can't work out for the life of me why you don't just go and spend 15-20 million a month ago. One signing would have got us through that tie. I say one-sided would have got us through that tie. Go spend 15, 20 million on 2 or 3 or 4 players, get them in, win the tie. You're up for what, 30, 40 million? So you're up, our board loves money, and there's a guaranteed way to make a profit. An absolute guaranteed way to make a profit. I cannot for the life of me understand why that's not been the case. Even if you spend 20, 25 million and you blow it, then the fan base would be pissed off and disappointed. But every fan base, every member of the fan base would go, well, there's got to be a price for failure. So if 2 players get sold to recoup the 20, 25 million that we spent and failed to get in the Champions League, so be it. That's what you have to wear. But I just cannot understand why we didn't go and strengthen this team and get through that tie. It's absolutely baffling to me. Baffling to me why we're running around on the last day of the window, grasping at fucking straws, basically.
But the thing as well, Paul, is that even if you buy a couple of duds and it doesn't work out, that then falls on the manager to a certain degree. So the boards put their hand up and said, well, we spent the money. We've done our bit. The recruitment / managers pick these players and it's not worked out. And obviously at the moment, there's a bit of criticism around Arnie Engels and Austin Trusty and Adam Ida, because there's 25 million quid between those 3 players, something like that.
Yep.
And they were on the bench in recent weeks, obviously leading up to Adam, obviously on his way to Swansea. But you're right, Paul. I mean, it makes no sense that wee Ange has been on our radar for the last 3 transfer windows. So it's like, how does it take into the last week of the transfer window to sign him? You knew who he was. You probably had a firm idea of what it was going to take to get him. Get him in a month ago. Get him in 2 months ago. Get him at the start of the window. I understand he picked up an injury at some point and maybe that delayed the acquisition. I get that. But you're keeping tabs on these players. It's not like they've just popped out the blue. We were linked with him 2 windows ago. It just reeks of amateurism. And the old Michael Nicholson, we aim to be the best, the top club in the world, doing whatever. It's like, this is not how a top club operates. This is how some third world country, it's not even a dictatorship, because all right, apparently Dermot Desmond gets the final say or whatever, but it goes through so much bureaucracy before it even gets to him that it's past, it's gone. This whole Dolberg thing's fallen apart because we pissed about with 3 or 4 bids. It's like, put your first bid in, it gets knocked back. This is what we want. Put a bid in that's that meets it or gets you very close to it. Don't go, oh, we'll just add $1 million and we'll try again. It's like, don't waste. You're just wasting people's time, wasting everyone's time, and it comes back to bite you. And unfortunately, we're now on deadline day where you don't have the luxury to drag it out. You've just dragged on with it, and now you're going to have to pay a premium because we've left it to the last minute. It's like, it's just crazy. And I remember having the same conversation with you a year ago. We were sitting here, doing the same pod. It was the same time of the season, scratching our heads going, how have we got ourselves in this situation? And here we go again. All we could do with these players, and nothing came in. And it's like, there's every likelihood that we might sign that Sebastian Chinecki. If that bid hasn't been accepted yet, because they'll loathe to let him go. But we might get him, maybe. I haven't even looked at the comments whether I could be told that that's not even a thing. But
he doesn't even sound that impressive from what I can gather, though. That's the concerning thing
about Paul, him. At the moment, we just need bodies. This is the problem. We literally just need warm bodies that can play in a wing position. Whether they're good or not at the moment is actually irrelevant. It's just you got to give James Forrest a rest, basically. And there's a comment in there about Kieran Tierney will be able to play 60 minutes, and it's a concern. And then he's getting picked for the Scotland squad. It's like, is your man Steve Clark? Is he even watching a Celtic game? You know what I mean? I just don't get it. He should be I don't know what Kieran Tierney needs, but it's certainly not going away with the Scotland squad. That's that much I know for certain. But yeah, I mean, there's also a lot of chat here about how do we make the board hurt and how do we tell Desmond to sling his hook or whatever. But it's just yeah, it's very frustrating, and it's just, like you say, Paul, it's 100 million in the bank. No, not one Celtic fan would expect to spend all that money, but you should be expected to have a net spend of zero. And currently we've taken in excess of what, 25 million pounds at least, like in transfers
with add-ons and stuff from like Frimpong and stuff. I think it's closer to 30. He does another 6 up front. Yang, if it
and
happens,
then today.
And Stuttgart are apparently going to pay 24 million pounds for.
I mean, if that shows you where the transfer market is, and no disrespect to it just never worked out with us, whether that was a manager or the player, whatever, it didn't work out, right? But the fact that he's going a year after he left from us for 25 million quid says a lot about where prices are in the market at the moment.
Well, it's a reality check. It's a reality check for our fan base, because the players that are getting the heat, and they haven't pushed on as much as most fans would want. But Engels at 11 million, Trusty at 6, Ida at 9. Now you could argue we probably paid a little bit over the odds for all of those. Again, because we didn't do our business early. In Ida's case, we didn't put in a option to buy in the loan. And in Engels' case, he was on the cusp of a Belgian international, and he was a young player coming from the Bundesliga. But that's the going rate, and this is the problem. You don't get very much for 7, 8, 9, 10 million. Yet you can win a watch and get a Matt O'Reilly for 1.5 million. But that's like winning the lottery, right? That's not going to happen very often, and you can't. And the board seem to want that to be the strategy. Buy players between 1 and 3 million. Doesn't matter if 6 or 7 of them are crap, as long as one of them comes good and make 25, 30 million quid off them. It's a nonsense. We've got to be shopping in that 8 to 12 million pound category. And yes, we might only buy 2 or 3 players a season. But if you're only letting one key player go every year and you're making a profit on what you spent,
you're accumulating. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I spoke briefly about Bruges on Thursday, and it's been done to death, but they sold 81 million euros of talent and spent 36 million euros in, and they look as good as they did last year. So their model is absolutely perfect. Their wage bill is near enough identical to ours, within a few million euros.
And ultimately,
it's
Paul,
so frustrating that you can see what we should be doing, and some of what we're doing is good. Like we're picking players, we're developing them, and we're selling them for profit. But think of all the ones we've missed. Like Hincapie is about to go somewhere for 60 million. He was a pick 3 years ago, and we didn't spend the money, and we dallied around, and he ended up at Bayern Leverkusen. It's just stuff like that you clearly see that there's the opportunity for us to be significantly better, and the board have got no interest in it. And now we add to that a manager who clearly has one eye out the door, and is in self-preservation mode. And
I like this comment here from Wilson QW. Why would you want to sign for a club when the manager's probably out the door at the end of the season? It's like you might get on with Brendan, and then Brendan's gone, and then you got to deal with somebody else, probably John Kennedy. But the other point I would like to make, Paul, is that you spend 9 million on Adam Ida. We're going to recoup the money anyway. Like, all right, it didn't work out for Big Adam. It happens. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But we're basically going to walk away having him cost us £1 million. He scored 20 goals last season. That's still not bad. Like,
and his goals on loan basically won us the double. So he's more than repaid what we spent on him in the goals that he scored and the trophies he's helped us win. You make a 1 to 2 million quid loss on him, doesn't quite work out. I think he had good contribution, but I think the jersey ended up just being a bit too heavy for him. And he hasn't really been blessed with any much support from the fan base really either. So I think it's better for him and all concerned, to be honest, to get a fresh start somewhere else. But the point is that we're getting 6 in for him, and I think Anderlecht wanted 8 for Dolberg. So there's a 2 million quid. There's a 2 million quid fee effectively in that transaction for a club.
We're not getting Dolberg, so we're going to be up 7 million.
but my point is, for £2 million
I know.
of net spend.
I know what your point is.
You could get a striker in the door if you make the bids at the level the club want, but you don't. You dilly-dally, and we're also sitting on £100 million in the back. It's just ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. You wouldn't see an amateur footy club as bad as this. It is. You said it was amateurish earlier. That's exactly what it is. It's an absolute shambles. What's going on there? But as has been touched on in here, and the only way to hit them in their pocket is. The only way to make any impact is hit them in the pocket, and there'll always be another fan that will want to see games and come in behind you. So I think it'll be very difficult to try and make an impact.
Yep, it's it's quite unusual for both sets of fans to be angry at the club and the manager at the same time. Like after these derbies, usually there's a winner and a loser. But the first feels like there's just two sets of losers at the moment because they're not that happy either. They still booed Russell Martin off the park yesterday afternoon. They're still 0 wins in 4 league games. So, they're sitting joint 5th in the league. We're joint top. We're top on goal difference by 2 goals with Hearts second. As we head into the international break, I will mention now that there won't be a show next week because we review Celtic games, not Scotland games. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. So that's just something to keep in mind. We will be back. Paul's not buggering off on holiday again. We're just we're a little bit FIFO at the moment, an Aussie expression, but 1 week on, 1 week off. But we'll be back. And I guess at the moment this is a really opportune time to if you like and subscribe to a Celtic World. Gav's told me to play this little video, so we're a support around the world, so
Celtic fans are everywhere, even here in China. Billions of us are subscribing to a Celtic World. You should too.
Yeah, so like and subscribe and get amongst it and get the notifications for when we come online, which will be 8:30 GMT +8, which is 1:30 Celtic part time.
Yeah,
is that right, Paul?
Yes,
at the moment.
So
at the moment, but like I said, usually a bit more of in-game analysis, but I think we've done our absolute best tonight to analyze what was a dull derby. Paul, I guess we might do man of the matches, I suppose, because we're kind of at that point of the night.
It's nearly impossible. I've got 2 candidates.
I'll say mine first because I wholeheartedly, and I know this is going to get a reaction from you, but my man of the match is Liam Stills. I thought he got his head and his body on everything. The one thing you can't fault Liam Stills is when it's that kind of last ditch cross balls, headers, clearing. He did really well. And I know he comes from a certain amount of stick from certain quarters of the fan base, not looking at anybody, Paul. But defensively, yesterday, he was sound as a pound. He did everything that was asked of him in that regard. The one caveat I will say to that is at one point in the match, he dribbled the ball up to the halfway line and then he put his foot on the ball, stopped the ball dead. And I went absolutely ballistic at the telly. I went, you don't fucking do that. That's just like, Lionel Messi can do that. Liam Stills can't and shouldn't be doing that. But I guess that was a bit of a symptom of the problem in front of him and players not showing and not offering him a pass. But that was the one criticism I had of him yesterday. But for me, he was my man of the match. Paul, who's your man of the match?
So I'm actually going to agree with you. But
it must kill you.
Look, I've been critical of Scales and I'll continue to be critical of Scales. He shouldn't be a first choice centre back for Celtic. And I don't think there's many Celtic fans that would disagree with me on that. His passing's poor. He gets turned too easily. he was pretty lucky. Like, it wasn't a penalty, but it could easily have been a penalty. He gets turned too easily. He's bad with the ball over the top, and a Celtic centre back should be able to pass the ball accurately, and he can't. So despite all of that, because they lob the ball in the box constantly, and what he is good, he's a very good stopper. He's good in the air. He gets his body on the line. You're absolutely spot on with that. I've never denied that. And we needed that yesterday because they did throw a bit in the box. And if there wasn't, I'll tell you who else did a really good job defensively. Daizen Maeda. He won quite a few headers. So Scales and Maeda won headers in the box. They're really the only two. So Maeda gets pass marks for his defensive work. He was anonymous up front. Scales on the basis that everybody else was absolutely hopeless, sneaks it. I would say the only other sort of worthy of a note is Shin Yamada, but he wasn't on the pitch for very long. So I think he can probably escape with some positive feedback, and I'd like to see a little bit more of him. And as things currently stands at the minute, we might be seeing a hell of a lot more of him because he might be the only striker in the club if we don't get another one in today. So yeah, I will grudgingly agree with you that unfortunately, because there was very few other candidates, Liam Scales was the man of the match from a Celtic point of view.
Thank you, Paul. At this point of the show, we usually give a little bit of a recommendation. So we do music, TV, film, literature, plays, comedians, thespians, lesbians. No, anything you want.
We haven't done a lot of players, let's be honest.
No, I know, but but that was more Richards. But he's a sometimes collaborator. I went to the movies while you were away, Paul. I hadn't been to the movies in ages, but there was a couple of summer blockbusters, which are winter blockbusters down in Australia. So I went and saw Superman, and I went and saw the Fantastic Four: First Steps. Both very highly enjoyable, and good to see DC back on track with their new universe. James Gunn in control of that. So that was quite upbeat and quite different from the previous Superman movies under Zack Snyder. So a bit more hopeful. Good sort of comic book movie there. And I really enjoyed Fantastic Four. They finally got that right, because the movies have sort of destroyed that franchise over the years, but they finally found a way to do it on cinema to actually make it make it work. And Vanessa Kirby was outstanding as Sue Storm. And they're due to come on streaming any day now. So if you haven't managed to see them at the movies, they're on your box to watch. So they're my two recommendations at the moment. Paul, what have you got for us? I know you've seen about 25 million music acts while you've been away.
Yeah.
But what are you going to zero in on for us tonight?
I was only at 2 gigs while I was there, but I was lucky enough to see Elbow in Glasgow and Oasis in Edinburgh. So yeah, they're a bit mainstream and absolutely brilliant. I'm going to give you 2 recommendations this week. I'm going to give you music as always. The 9th, believe it or not, 9th studio album from We Are Scientists called Qualifying Miles. Came out last month. I was saying last month. We're into September, so mid to late July it came out. So if you remember We Are Scientists, they've been around for a long time. And 9th album, it's a bit of a throwback to some of their earlier stuff. So if you like them in the mid 2000s, I guess, check out the current album, which is called Qualifying Miles. And then the other little recommendation I wanted to do was a movie that I watched on the plane, or one of the many planes I was on, called The Ballad of Wallace Island. It's a little independent British movie. Actually got a bit of a musical theme. Written and starring Tim Key, who's been in the Alan Partridge stuff. He's a bit of a character comic actor, and Tom Bastine, he was in the Afterlife show with Ricky Gervais. Basically, the premise, and Kerry Mulligan turns up as well. The premise is this quirky lottery winner, multimillionaire, wants to try and get his favorite band to reform, so he books them for a gig. It doesn't quite tell them it's just him on the island. So drags them out to this remote British island, and it's a quite a quirky British kind of comedy drama. It's worth a look. So yeah, it's called The Ballad of Wallace Island. Worth a look.
Excellent. Well, unlike Celtic, I made a little signing in the off season. This is wee Fergus. He's stretching the life out of me, but yeah. So he's a new addition to the family. We've got Bruce as well, but you've probably met Bruce. Maybe met Bruce already, but he'll come on the podcast at some point. But he's my my latest addition to the menagerie. So keeping us busy, but he's only about 4 months old. So if that, maybe 3 months old. So he's still very much a kitten. I'll just round out with a few comments, Paul. Just a few bits and pieces that popped up. Sorry, I've done that one already. That was not the right one. Graham Bell, great show, boys. Thank you very much, Graham. Thank you for joining. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done already. John Clements, I suggest Anthony will prescribe antidepressants after this window closes. A little reference to me being a pharmacist. I dispense, not prescribe. I'd love to be able to prescribe, but dispense. But yeah, maybe that might be the case. Hopefully not. And then A asked me my comment here saying Bernardo away today? ? I fucking hope not, because I'll be absolutely rigid if that happens. And then somebody just said here that Poozy's not missing after all. Yeah.
You see the one after it?
Yeah, Fergus McCann. Yep. My wife doesn't realise that he's named after wee Fergus McCann. But anyway, I'm sure that will come out in the wash at some point. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. I think we got up to nearly 100 people live there, so that was absolutely fantastic at one point. So really great that you all joined in the comments. Comments were nice and lively. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time to review Celtic away to Kilmarnock. Obviously international duty this week, so we get a week off. Paul will be on the Thursday show. I'll be around about, but I won't be on air. But we'll be back as a duo in a couple of weeks to do it all over again. So thank you very much for joining us. And all that's left to say, Paul, is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.